Hey guys, in this video I want to go over the exact plan I would use if I was starting guitar from zero and I was trying to learn as quickly as possible. This video is sponsored by my brand new beginner breakthrough course. More on that in a moment. Step one is set goals, and I don't mean that in the cliche way. I mean something very particular by that. You need to know the next two things that you're going to be working on at any given time. This gives you direction. It gives you something particular to work on when you pick up your guitar. If you don't do this, what you're going to do is open up YouTube and just kind of scroll endlessly looking for a cool lesson that kind of catches your eye, and you're never going to get that focus, and it's going to be really, really hard to progress. The question is, what goals should you set? A good resource for this is my guitar playing roadmap. If you're new to the channel, I'm best known on YouTube for making a 63-point list of everything that you should learn on guitar in order. I list all 63 points of that roadmap in its own video. You should go watch it. But even if you're not into my roadmap, maybe you even hate me personally, I don't know, you should have a roadmap. You should have a rough idea of what you want to learn and what you want to get better at. Step two is to always have your guitar out of its case and ready to play. This is a very practical thing, but it just helps with playing it more. If it's out of its case and it's ready to go, you're more likely to pick it up, you're more likely to practice, it's gonna be more beneficial in the long term. In that same vein, step three is have an awesome guitar that makes you want to pick it up. This is not to say that gear really is the problem and that, it really is the gear that's holding you back, but if you have a guitar that you think is awesome, that's gonna make you want to play it more. For example, my wife got me this awesome yellow guitar for Christmas and I've been playing it a ton. Your reason for liking your guitar is allowed to be as kind of vain and dumb as it's yellow and I like that. Those 2 points kind of speak to a broad attitude, which is you need to be trying to do everything you can to set yourself up to play more. Speaking of practice, step four is to set a minimum limit for the amount that you're going to practice. I'm going to be honest with you guys about how much I think is kind of the minimum you can get by with. The absolute minimum that you should practice is 20 minutes a day, at least 5 days a week, and you should never skip 2 days in a row. Now listen, ideally, I would love to see you practicing a lot. If you could make an hour happen every single day, 7 days a week, that would be ideal. If you could do even more than that, that'd be incredible. But I'm just being honest that if you practice for less than 20 minutes, it's not really that you're getting a ton of value out of the practice. It's more, people say stuff like you can improve with only 5 minutes a day of practice. While that's technically true, I think most of that is just sort of a trick to get you to pick up the guitar with a low commitment. I'm only going to practice for 5 minutes, and then hopefully you practice more than that. Really, it's going to be about 20 minutes where you really make noticeable progress. That second point, that you should practice a minimum of 5 days a week, never skipping 2 days in a row. Again, it would be better if you could do it more, but I'm just trying to account for the fact that real life happens and you got to have some flexibility. I'm just being honest about the fact that if you start skipping 2 days in a row, then some of your practice is going to be spent just trying to get back to where you were, and that is the opposite of what we're trying to do here. What we're trying to do is gain efficiency. Step five is you got to learn how to practice, and there's a few sub-points under this one. Let me explain them. You have to be able to identify and even create good exercises, and there's kind of two things that make up a really good exercise on guitar. They are the isolation of the difficult technique and the exercise's ability to kind of turn dial the difficulty, where you can turn it down and you can turn it up. Let me give you an example of this. The ultimate example of a good exercise on guitar is the spider exercise that everybody learns when they're first starting, the one where you just walk up with each finger, all 6 strings. This is a good exercise because, like I said, it, number one, isolates the difficult part. Beginners struggle with dexterity. They struggle with just fretting and picking and getting their hands in sync and having that fine motor skill that comes along with playing guitar for the first time. This exercise totally isolates that. The second thing this exercise does right is you can do it to a metronome, so you can make it slower to make it easier, and you can make it faster, and you have the ability to very finely tune the difficulty there and keep track of your progress. So again, this exercise is good because it isolates the hard part and you can turn dial the difficulty. When you're trying to learn guitar, you might search up on YouTube, exercises for whatever thing you're trying to work on, and usually you see a lot of them. Some of them have a lot of filler and kind of fluff and things thrown into the exercise that are really just kind of like entertaining or just trying to be impressive. Really, every exercise is only effective to the degree that it gets those two things that we talked about right. Speaking of getting things right in the realm of practice, I want to say that this video is sponsored by you if you choose to check out my brand new course, the Beginner Breakthrough course. This is my first ever course and I'm really excited about it. I'm not great at doing like the advertising for courses, so I'll just tell you guys exactly what's in it. Basically, as the channel has grown, I've gotten to teach a lot of students one-on-one, and I've noticed that all beginners struggle with the same three things. Those are changing chords quickly, bar chords, and strumming so it sounds musical and not mechanical. After helping a ton of students through these problems, I figured I should just make a course where I give everybody the solutions to these problems. So that's what's in the Beginner Breakthrough course. We go over the exact solutions to those problems, the exact exercises I would do. We go over all the little things and the big things you need to know. It's really complete and I'm really proud of it. I think you guys will love it. So if you're kind of stuck in that forever beginner wasteland, and if you struggle with those three things specifically, please go check it out. Link is in the description. Back to the video. So like we were saying, besides using and identifying exercises that get those two things right, the other half of practice is learning how to balance the boring stuff and the fun stuff. For most people, what this means is you have to learn to strike that balance between practicing the fun stuff, songs that keep you motivated, and practicing what we might call, the boring stuff, the scales and the chord exercises and that kind of thing that push your technique forward. As a very general rule, I often recommend people try to split it roughly 50-50, but you've got to learn to adjust that ratio specifically to you. So if you're a very self-motivated learner and you're not going to need to rely on returning to songs that you love to stay motivated, maybe you can spend a little bit more time in the technique side of things, in the exercise side of things, and maybe you can improve a little quicker that way. If you're the kind of learner who thrives more on quick wins and maybe a little bit shorter of a positive feedback loop, maybe leaning a little bit more into songs is going to be more beneficial for you. It's not that you don't get anything out of practicing songs. It's very, very important, and as you progress, it's probably going to be the case that you practice songs more anyway. But for most people, kind of at this beginner stage, that's how I want you to start thinking about a practice routine split. Step 6, you have to get feedback on your playing. This is a non-negotiable. There's a few ways to do this. Number 1 is the old school way. That is to pay an instructor to give you feedback. Number 2, maybe you know somebody in your personal life, maybe a friend's a good guitar player. Number 3 is my personal favorite because everybody can do it. That is to give yourself feedback by recording yourself. If you record a video of yourself playing, that forces you to do a few things. First of all, you have to prepare at least a small section of music or an exercise or something you've been working on that is presentable. You also get the chance to kind of look at yourself from that third-person perspective and visually identify some of your technique things. When your attention isn't split between playing and listening, and you can just focus entirely on listening, you'll notice more things about your playing that you need to improve. Recording yourself is a great way to kind of give yourself feedback. It's probably not going to be quite as efficient as getting maybe a professional instructor or something like that, but for most people, I think it's an awesome solution. And finally, step 7, if you've watched to the end here, I want to give you some advice on how to create your own roadmap. And maybe this is sort of a window into how I think about creating the roadmap. I think every topic on guitar and in music generally falls into one of 3 categories, and for each of the individual topics, there's kind of 3 ways to attack it. Let me explain. When you're thinking about building out your guitar skills to be a complete player, understand that music is made up of 3 parts: melody, harmony, and rhythm. Okay, melody has everything to do with like single note lines, right? Think scales and soloing and melodies, like singers actually just singing a melodies. That's the first category. The second category is harmony. That's how notes relate to each other. And the flagship concept in harmony is chords. So think about chords and rhythm guitar and intervals in the ways that notes relate to each other. And finally, rhythm is just applying time, hopefully good timing, to all other aspects of your playing. So for example, let's take a topic, say the major scale. Let's think about in which category does it fall into. I'm going to go ahead and say melody because, like I said, it's a scale. It serves, the melody side of music more than anything. So let's say that, in these 3 buckets, we have the major scale, right? And that goes in the melody bucket. When we're thinking about how to attack the major scale, I think there's 3 lenses that you need to take to each topic. Number 1 is technique. Number 2 is music theory. And number 3 is ear training. Technique is just literally, can you play it? Can you play the major scale? Number 2 is music theory. Do you understand the major scale? Do you understand the intervals? Could you answer some basic questions about it? And then number 3 is ear training. Could you identify the major scale if it was played and you weren't looking at the player, you weren't looking at tabs or something like that? So all this is to say, when you're thinking about trying to build a roadmap to become a complete musician, make sure that you're trying to fill up each of the 3 buckets, melody, harmony, and rhythm equally, and that for the topics in each bucket, make sure that you're thinking about it in 3 ways. It should be technique, theory, and ear training. So that, you guys, is the plan I would use to try to learn guitar as quickly as possible and become a really complete musician. Like I said, please check out the Beginner Breakthrough course. If you liked this video, I think it's going to be right up your alley. The other thing you can do to support me is please check out my Patreon page. I mentioned the roadmap in this video, the most complete, up-to-date lesson series for the roadmap, where I teach every single one of those topics and give a recommended practice routine for each level, is over on my Patreon, as well as a bunch of other great benefits. As always, thank you guys for watching.